Welcome to the Drum Shed podcast. And today we've got Tim Baltes, who's also known as at Timbo from Kino on his Instagram. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Matty from South London. Thank you for having me on the pod.
Thank you. Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. It's nice to have a different accent for a start. It's nice. I think you might be our first. Yeah, you must be the first American.
Is Zach Grooves? Is he American? He's
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Of course he is.
well. I'll be the first American in France. How about that?
The first American in France and the first American that we've done a podcast face to face in Zoom as opposed to a 10-minute chat. We'll get Zach in, but I'll have to tell him he's second now. He'll have to put up with that. So bless him, he won't mind. Anyway, Timbo from Kino. Um, how the devil are you? That sounds very English.
Good. Yeah, good, man. I just finished month 7 in France after moving here from Chicago. And today, the last couple days, I've actually been doing some drum stuff, which has been fun. It's the most drums I've played and worked with since leaving the States. So we're getting slowly figuring out the groove of things over here.
So, without giving obviously your exact location and coordinates, whereabouts in France are you? South, north, west, east?
Uh, all of it. So we're southwest of Paris, about 2 hours by the bullet train. We're in a city called Nantes, Nantes, which is we chose this city because so my wife's French. She was born here. She's got family in Paris and Lyon, the two big cities. She's got family up in the Alps, family in the southwest near Spain. She's got family in the southeast near Italy, family in Italy. This was the one corner of the country we felt like we're near enough to get to folks, but this is our region. So we spent 10 days here in late 2023 and made the move here in November of 2024 because we fell in love with the city. It's very a lot of friends I have in the UK when they're touring through the US, almost unanimously their favorite city is Chicago. Um, I think it feels very UK, it's working folks, but yet uh, even though we're hardworking folks in the Midwest, we all love to have our creative outlets, and that means a ton of music. So this city reminds me of that. It's a post-industrial city, lots of art, lots of music. We're on a river, whereas I would live less than a mile from Lake Michigan where I was growing up. So we still have big water here. The only difference is basically I traded Wisconsin's beer and cheese for Nantes wine and cheese. So it's not too different.
It's not too different. So,
No, no.
how's your French?
It's not bad. I got plenty ways to go. Thank God. I studied for 7 years in middle and high school, and then I studied my butt off once I started dating my now wife because she was from France, and then her parents are obviously French, and you got to try to impress the in-laws to be as well, and know what they're talking about if they're talking about you. So I tried to stay up and up on the French.
Did you ever pretend that you didn't know what they were saying so you could like just was that too deep? That's me being devious.
I wish I was that good. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. Excellent. So, uh, do you drink? Are you a non-drinker or
I drink very seldomly, but the wine here, it's such an important part of the culture here
Hmm.
that I try to at least understand it through tasting, through talking about these things, learning about the history of the different stuff that comes from different regions. Where I come from, truly, it was, Wisconsin started and really became the heart of microbreweries in the US. In my opinion, Milwaukee, we have Miller. Miller's the big company brewing over in Milwaukee.
Hmm.
In the past, Pabst was up that way. We had a beer called Hams. There were a lot of big beers that came out of Milwaukee. and there were smaller breweries that popped up. Lion and Kugels was a big one, and then we have and that kind. I think that was one of the smaller ones that it grew big then, but or after, but now there's a million small ones everywhere, and then that kind of started to dot the country with that kind of trend. But because I really enjoy that part of the culture, small business, really trying to refine something the same way that I love refining drumming. These people are passionate about beer. And now here in France, we find that the people are very passionate about wine. So, for me, even though I'm not a huge wine drinker, I can appreciate that as an art form in and of itself, for sure.
Yeah, well, it's nice to investigate the local culture, isn't it, when you go away? So, but obviously you're not away, you're permanent, you're not, well, you're living there, so it's not so much as a holiday. But yeah,
Yeah.
I had stopped drinking like 2020 or 2020, and so I'm on my local Bavaria beer, which is a zero beer right now. I say local, it's in Holland. It's not local at all. But I've been amazed about the amount of choice for the 0% nowadays. And when I used to drink, it was mostly wine, maybe red, white, mix it up, whatever. You can mix it as long as you've got paracetamol. Um, but I'm never far away from one. But I genuinely I don't miss it at all. And you know that thing when you had a day at work or you've had a day or it's hot or whatever, and you go, I really want a beer. Then you might think that if you have a beer that's not got any alcohol, that you don't have that experience, or you don't have that reward. But I personally, this luckily for me, I can God, I really need a beer and have a beer and then drive everyone home. And
Yeah.
it's 0.05, so it's classified as a soft drink technically. Although in America, or in Florida, I should say, uh, Heineken Zero you can't drink if you're under 21. My son,
Wow.
my son found that out. Uh, well, with us, so it's okay. It was with us, but yeah, no. I was like, sorry, it's n and the funny thing is, in TGI Fridays, which I think has gone under now, um, TGI Fridays in the UK, they would not serve him a 0% beer. And I had to point out that the licensing act says that anything under 0.05 is not an alcoholic drink. But they weren't having it. It was their policy. Maybe it was an American policy. I don't know. But um, yeah, I haven't drunk for ages, but I do like a good zero. And I got this when I was in Holland. I was very glad to find it's readily available. Not an advert, but readily available in all good UK Sainsbury's and other shops. Um, anyway,
We
yeah,
got to get, I think we certainly need to get them to sponsor the pod for
yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
mean, that they've got you'll have to hop over here sometime because even over here, that microbrewery culture is alive and well. And even though France is obviously historically has a culture of being very, very into their wine and their beer, especially if you get into the north. Um, Here, there's a big movement among younger people about my age and younger who are going the route of trying to stick to non-alcoholic bevies, whether that is wine or beer. So we're even in the microbreweries here in town. There's nice local NA beer that you can get on draft, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, the wine has always been a problem until recently. My wife, because I've probably been nagging her a little bit because she does like a glass of wine. It was her big birthday the other day, and I got one of those Chat GTP toy card, the card of the toy made up with, and she had a massive glass of wine in her hand in this cartoon thing. But I've been saying, oh, you're on the wine again, and she's like, no, this is non-alcoholic. So I'm like, oh, hang on. Didn't tell me that. So I've had a go and I've been really surprised that some of this new non-alcoholic wine is actually doing all right. Whereas before it was
Yeah.
was the weak point really that wasn't. So it's come on a long way. And going out now, because I've got a 19-year-old, I've been going out to taking him to photograph his friends' bands or to gigs or whatever. And I've just noticed a lot more in London. The range like it used to be like one or two beers, but now there's like maybe four or five. Some of them, six. six choices of non-alcoholic. So um, anyway, that's not about drums, but that was just a bit of a diversion. So,
I love it.
although, is it about drums? Because if you're a drummer going to a gig, the chances are you've got to drive.
Yep.
So it could be linked in a way to like promote. You can still have a drink and drive your kit home without causing any problems or getting arrested. So,
I
bang,
love it. There's our tie-in. We're back, and we're back, baby.
we're back in. So, but now I know that I know I've got one listener. But I definitely got one listener who'll be very happy. Because well, I know I've got plenty of listeners that will be happy, but there's one guy that I know listens to the podcast that is often talking about you and your drumless tracks. And that's not me, by the way, it's another one. Um, so how I came to know you um, was convoluted through the fact that it started off in lockdown when I was watching Zach Groovesville. When I discovered Zach with my son, me and my son sitting there watching Zach together, he was getting enthusiastic about drumming more so because I think Zach connects nicely with the young ones as well. And then he had one of his videos was getting his friends to play along to one of his songs, and one of those players was Martina Barakowska, and that's how I discovered Martina. And then when I went over to her channel and was following her quite a lot, um, I was getting inspired to play, and 9 times out of the 10, the songs that she was playing were your loops. Obviously, it's nice when people play it and they credit Tim Baltes or Timbo from Keno, so you can then go and find out what it is. Because one of the things people often say or want to know is, "What's that song? I want to have a go," you know. Um, so I went off to Bandcamp because she'd also explained that it from Bandcamp, and got myself I got two of your 11. Have you got 11 albums?
That's right. Yep.
So you started in 2017 on volume one of, is this right?
Mhm.
Drumless Tracks, volume one. Um, and you have about 100 tracks on each of them, loops.
So it started out with like eight on the first one because I played every
Oh,
instrument on every track. And then eventually it slowly wound up being more samples, and now it's all sample based. And that's why I started to crank out 100, 125 tracks of volume. So there's all sorts of tempos, all sorts of genres. I tried to do a little bit of everything for everyone on
yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, this is not a joke, really. What's the question is, did it take you longer to make the song, the track, or did it take you longer to think of the name? Because
So,
flip that burger, put it in my biscuit. It's Samick time. Well, I mean, this is from volume six, 150
yeah.
BPM. A little pitter patter on my boom boom. I mean, there's some very interesting. And this one, if you don't, if you don't wear Adidas tracksuits, please unfollow me on Instagram immediately. I mean, I think you definitely get some kind of recognition or an award for the most inventive and wacky in the polite way, um, titles. Because I suppose, what do you call them?
So the way the process works is I make the tracks, and then as I don't number them, but as I'm uploading them to Bandcamp, it's then and only then that I will start to kind of program them in some sort of order that makes more sense. And as I'm creating that track order, that's when I'm creating these song titles. And some of them are silly, uh, because I think it's like it'll catch people. You know, just the title might catch you. Whereas because you don't, when you have 100 tracks, how do you choose something at first? You don't have a picture to go off of. Maybe you have a BPM to go off of, but I try to get a little bit of let people get a vibe of the track, or to have something to inspire them by a silly phrase. Sometimes it's wordplay. There's one from Volume 7 that's Krung My Trash Bin, which is a reference to Krung Bin, the band, um, to try to say that this is in the style of that band.
Yeah.
I have some on other volumes that have, there are a lot of them that have references to popular drummers. I have a track about Anna Cornelis. I have
Yeah.
tracks about about Steve Gadd and some of these other famous drummers. And so A, it's to try to inspire people. B, believe it or not, it's part of the marketing effort. All of these track names are eventually going to be plugged into Google. So if someone's looking for drumless practice track or drum practice music, Annika Nillis, Steve Gadd, uh, any of these names that pop up in my stuff, they're going to find that on Google. So it serves a lot of different purposes. Even though it seems silly, there's thought behind it. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know of you and what I've heard you say in other interviews, certainly nothing you're doing is accidental and it's very well thought out. And I'm guessing like things like in the meta or in the whatever it used to be called. I used to design websites years ago when you had to do them with code rather than just press a button. Um, but but also when no one knew how to do it and you could charge a fortune, which was great. Um, but you put all the right words in the search. I can't even remember what it's called. It's meta, isn't it? What's the? I don't know. At the beginning of a website, you'd put loads of these words in.
Mhm.
I've completely lost it because I'm getting old. But
Your metadata.
metadata just for searching
Yeah.
purposes, so they come up.
Yeah.
And again, that's right. So I wasn't losing it. So you think about that, and also with your videos and your dinosaur outfits and stuff like this, which we can talk about. And you're playing in the air tonight over every song, um, or the feel at least. But the this is not accidental. It's very well done because it kind of looks accidental or entertaining, but it's planned, isn't it? Because you know your stuff.
Of course. No, and but this is, I think, the most important part. I think is that this is, even though it's planned and there's purpose behind the silliness or the oddity of what I do, um, it's authentic. It's totally authentic.
Oh yeah.
So with the song titles, for instance, when I'm thinking them up on the fly, I'm using my musical references to create the titles. Or, I've worked as a copywriter since I got out of college. It's what I went to college for.
Yeah.
Essentially business writing, and understanding quippy sorts of things, creative language in a business context. So it's using all that skill set to sort of recall words, phrases, or whatever in the moment. So it's completely authentic, the same way that, we have muscle memory when we're playing drums. When I go out and play a gig when I used to play with bands all the time, when I would go out and play with my bands, I'm not thinking about the songs I'm playing while I'm playing them. I'm thinking about the cheeseburger and the beer I'm going to have afterwards. That's muscle memory. The same way when I'm writing these titles for these songs, it's muscle memory. I let this sort of, it's improvisation. I
Mm.
let that come out. It's authentically me. It's pulled from whatever insane nether regions of my mind, ultimately creating something that, hopefully, is an effective tool to A, get people to find these things, and B, to inspire them to use them. I think it's worked. I just looked at the stats the other day. We're well over 1 million plays on the just on the Bandcamp site. Thousands of different videos across YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok of people using these things.
Yeah.
Freaking big drummers who've played with everybody from Gwen Stefani to Katy Perry to, uh, all sorts of just incredibly Father John Misty, like huge drummers from all over the world, and people just like us are using these tracks. It's just,
Yeah.
so whatever the heck I'm doing, whatever this goofy crap is, it's working. It's working.
It's working. And like from a personal perspective, I would consider myself to be like a bedroom drummer or home studio drummer, but I need to have, as me and many others need to have inspiration and music to play along to. But the music that comes to us where you allow us, you empower us to play along and then post without, I'm sure that's true, isn't it? It is meant for that, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, 100%.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
whole purpose.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Um, and that sort of thing that Martina said as well in her blurb on Bandcamp. She did a couple of albums, and she said, "Look, please do this and tag me and think of what you can do with it or what have you." And when someone says that, I think that's like a green light because some people don't want to ask, like, how does this work? Am I allowed to do this? Am I going to get like someone knocking on the door, like the TV license guy or the tax man or whatever knocking on the door if I do this, or the feds, you know, am I going to have some kind of problem if I do this? Or is it okay? Because there is a bit of a misunderstanding, or you put something on YouTube and you get copyrighted. What does that mean? Does that mean
Yeah.
someone literally is going to come around and charge you, fine you millions of pounds, dollars? Um, so your music and the fact that there's like what 100 or so tracks, like we said, and they're kind of loops that last, they repeat for some time, don't they? So you can just play along to it and jam to it, rather than having to put it in Logic and loop it, or you can just, if you're trying to work something out, you can sit in that song for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Some of them they are about 10 minutes, aren't they? Some of them.
They kept getting longer. Then I kind of found a sweet spot around 10 to 15 minutes. So it's there's over 1,000 tracks, all different genres, typically 10 to 15 minutes. And that's the whole point is it's A, you can make content with it. B, it's great for educators. You can give this to kids and that they're going to be more engaged than they ever would be with a metronome. And I think it's even more intriguing to try to get younger drummers to use this because a metronome's just going to give you the tempo. Whereas if you're working with these drumless tracks, now you have to figure out how am I going to balance or not balance, trying to sit in the pocket while also trying to create some sort of musical drum part, amongst all these different elements of the arrangement. So it's really a pretty comprehensive tool for drummers, drum educators, and everybody in between. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, and that's, I mean, you've got 11 volumes, and they all vary so much as well. So you might have something with a bit of acoustic guitar, and then you'll have something that's more electronic and upbeat and slower, and um, so I mean, for me, I'm looking for something to play along to, either to get inspired. Sometimes I might be watching something on YouTube, on Instagram, on my phone in the house. Something pops up, and I'm like, "Let's go!" And all I've got to do is run down. It's all set up. All I've got to do is run down, turn the lights on, whatever. Get my if I genuinely try and record everything just in case it was good. So
Mhm.
put the SD card in, and generally, if it's that quick and I don't want to lose it, I'll just do it through the EAD 10 because that's the quickest way to not like mess around with the Scarlett or mess around with the Behringer XR18 and realize that my son's unplugged all my mics and put his ones in instead. And I'm like, no. So yeah, USB straight into the laptop on the EAD, take all the effects off and just play along quickly. And I get just what I can, I grab it, that sort of moment. And I think your tracks are really good like that. And you can just sit there comfortably, scroll through them. Which one's making me vibe? And then, right, that one, I like that one. Oh yeah, okay. Down there and play. So I'm lucky in that respect that I've got that. Some people have to go to a practice room or studio. Um, but no, I really appreciate. Thank you for doing that, and because it's really really important. If you haven't got a band or you haven't got people around that you can jam with as well, it's just nice. And I can see the educational, because yeah, like it's uninspiring to go.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought, and I don't want to talk out of turn, but couldn't these be maybe part of a Roland thing, where instead of them have like in their education, in the coaching part of their TD, whatever, 27 or whatever it is now, I should know, I work in the shop that sells them. um, but that would be cool to have like I don't know, like a all SD card pack. No, Just trying to think of a way where it could be incorporated in the module, like a coaching tick at metronome, but actually with your tunes.
I mean, they've got so many synthesizers, they could build their own and probably make a fortune off of that stuff. So
Yeah, I guess
hopefully,
it would sound.
if they come out with that on the next line of drum sets, you better call them and get your royalty check.
Yeah, yeah, I will. Yeah. No, I get it, but the synthesizer ones they always sound a little bit synthesized, as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little bit Yamaha keyboard from the 90s, some of them, and little PSR 60.
Oh God.
I used to play on the PS. I used to play with the PSR 60 in the local music shop every Saturday, and like really want one little bossa nova, you know. Uh, anyway, definitely showing my age. I'm as this year, this next week, I'm going to proudly wear the. Hopefully, someone's going to get me a badge with the Herbie 53 on it because it's I love Herbie and that, and I'll be 53. So I said to everyone, I want a Herbie birthday card. I expect it on my 53rd birthday.
I hope you get three or four of them. I
Oh,
hope you get a bunch of them.
my mum will. I'm sure my wife will. Yeah, don't worry, it's sorted. It's kind of
Good.
anyway. I don't know. I just ADHD check. Bing. I'll come back now. Um, yeah. So, um, yeah. So that's Bandcamp. And if people are interested or don't know what we're talking about, uh, first of all, bandcamp.com is a good source for lots of music. But Tim Baltes, Baltes, Tim, usual spelling. Uh, Check him out because there's lots to choose
Thank you.
from, and anything we can do to support everyone and keep the world going round, the best. That's the plan, isn't it? Right. So I've got here Instagram. Now, your Instagram count is pretty massive. What is it, like 50 odd
Just
thousand?
about 50,000. Yeah, just about 50,000.
Yeah, it beats my 650. You're doing all right. Well done. Well done.
It's Instagram's one of those things. I got very lucky. I was one of the first drummers on there. You know, I know you're part of Mike Johnston's community online, and Mike's one of those guys who got in on the .com bubble with his work, you know, and I think that really helped to bump his business the same way that being on Instagram in the beginning helped bump what I was doing
Yeah.
and my little personal brand and having fun with that. Um, but yeah, no, I know one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight was just like optimizing what we do on social media.
Yeah.
You know, something I always talk about. You know, I'll have one-off clients. You know, just like a one little meeting with folks to talk about. Well, I want to do this. Here's my goal. Here's where I want to go. I want to use social media to get there. How do I do it? And for a long time, I was able to honestly say that Instagram was the best tool for that. And I still look at Instagram as a more effective a professional networking tool than LinkedIn. But um, as time continues to go on, especially in the light of recent trends, I try to push musicians to consider uh, going to long form content with platforms like YouTube.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, and it depends on the goal. It depends on what you're trying to do. You know, these sorts of things. If you know, for me, I've economized making short form content. You know, when I was in back home in the US, I had a very similar setup to you. If I had a moment where I felt inspired, all I had to do was hit the on button, sit behind my kit, everything was ready to go. And, you know, 10 minutes after getting home from work, I could be recording. I could be making video. Um, I think it's a great outlet. And if you have the means to do that, to quickly make content, it can serve you across many platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. And it's not to say that that won't get you towards your goals. I've had TikTok videos that had, I'm not kidding you, less than 1,000 views. And I've gotten thousands of dollars of work from one little itty bitty video just like that. So it can certainly work in your favor, whether you're trying to advance, your personal goals, work towards your personal goals, work towards professional goals. But I think there's more power in long form content. You get more than just a very, very simple snapshot of a person. And now I think you can start to really get a better understanding for the person, what they're about, their knowledge base. You can connect with people further, whether you're a fan through comments or just understanding who that creator is. And it doesn't take a ton of views to build whatever you're trying to build there.
Yeah.
So I think 2025, at least for now, I really think that's the path forward for whoever's trying to build whatever they want to build. Um, I had, well, I still have an audience of just about 3,500 subscribers or something like that. It's not a lot on YouTube, but I've got almost a 250,000 views across my videos. Through YouTube, I've had such powerful, uh, I guess responses you could say to the content I'm putting out. Some of them are super serendipitous. Some of them are more practical. I've had manufacturers reach out, worked with folks. Some of my videos are essentially video essays. So as a person who works in marketing, I can use those to support me through, providing those links to potential employers. But, one of the best examples I have of what YouTube has given me is, we arrived in France. We left London, the day after my birthday, flew here to France. And within the first week, I went to like a professional networking event for English speaking professionals here in Nantes. And basically, the only gal who I really connected with, and I said, I do this. She says, oh, I do this. And we kind of started talking. And I said, well, I play drums too. She says, hey, my husband plays drums. We have to connect you guys. And so I provided her with my Instagram link. She goes home the same night. I get a message from her on Instagram and she says, oh my God, my husband, my French husband who's never left France, he's as French as it gets. From a million miles away, she didn't say all this, but a million miles away, he's been watching all your YouTube videos. He's seen every single YouTube video you posted. And I've got, at the time, I had less than 3,000 subs, I think, subscribers on YouTube. And it was so silly that one guy in a mid-sized to kind of smaller mid-sized city in France has watched all my videos that I made 5,000 miles away, an hour north of Chicago. And what was so nice is, we've formed a friendship now. And my wife has bad migraines, and we're trying to get set up in the healthcare system here. And so we went to our primary care doctor. That guy got us an appointment with a neurologist, but it was going to take 6 months to get in with that guy. And this drummer who I met through the gal at the networking event, he said, well, he's a doctor. He's an anesthesiologist and an ER doctor. And he said, all right, how's your wife doing? How'd that appointment go? I said, well, we got to wait 6 months. And he said, what's the drug she's taking? I said, well, it's this migraine medication. And he said, no, actually, I know the one gal, the doctor in this region who prescribes that. I'm going to give her a call, tell her you're coming. And we got in 2 weeks, and my wife got the medication right then and there. So to me, even though, like you, drumming's always been a passion and a passion project, there's not a ton of money in what we're doing. But the payoff for me is building relationships
Yeah.
with, this and by serendipity, it's helped us in a tremendous way as we're making this transition in life. This morning, I was making videos in a studio with there's a drummer I know who lives a 10-minute walk from me, who I've been talking to on Instagram since before I moved here. And just again, serendipitously, the apartment that we got here in Nantes is a 10-minute walk from this guy's house. He's got a recording studio. I've been helping him get that up and running. And through another guy I met in France, who I've known through Instagram, he connected me with a guy who's building drums on the other side of town here. And all three of us connected the past 2 days to work on drum, basically, kind of marketing videos, drum performance videos using this guy's snares because he's building Braviato style solid shell snares, and he's got molds to do plies. So he's doing Scandinavian beach drums that sound like 80s sonar. I mean, and he's right here in this little city, and all through the power of the internet and through the power of posting little drum videos on the internet, I'm here and I'm making friends and building relationships and doing the same cool, fun stuff that I was doing because I love it back in the States, now here in France. So big, big, big blessing. But Instagram and YouTube, that's why you just have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I get so excited about this sort of thing, and I don't like the negative side is some members, maybe some of the younger generation think they don't have to learn anything or do anything. They can just do something that goes viral and then they suddenly become famous or whatever. Or a lot of reality TV people, they'll go on the reality show and next thing they're presenters on TV shows. And that seems to be a bit of a culture. It seems to be people aren't really working hard to learn something or to do something. Now I'm not I haven't worked hard to be a drummer to learn all the big things I should know by now with my years behind me. I should pretend I only started last week rather than when I was younger. But that's the point I'm making is that the just the excitement and the creative. I just have to make something. I have to be creative, and if that's putting a video out, uh, to a drum cover or I've done on my little YouTube channel with about 100 or so followers, subscribers. Um, I've done some videos of reviews of Dixon drums, for instance, because I really like a lot of the Dixon stuff. I'm really it's I got introduced to it, I suppose, more so through Zach Groove's endorsement and seeing his kit, and I had his kit here for like 6 months. Um, But yeah, I've on YouTube I've done some drum build little very quick drum building videos because I've built a few drums. I've done about 7 or 8 snare drums, and a whole kit. And a little white one behind me is actually a PDP X7 that I rewrapped because I needed an 8 to go with my whole kit. And I put the Pacific PDP, the 2003 lugs on it. Got my own badge made up and bought the Delmar wrap from Germany
Wow.
and wrapped that one. I've done the whole kit in that vintage marine. Uh, and that was after doing a course. Have you ever heard of tiki drums?
Mm-mm.
So, or tiki drums. So it's in a guy called Preston Prince. He is the loveliest man. And I want to get him in on the podcast. We did talk about it before. He does drum building courses. I'm going off on a tangent. I better stop. Be careful not to lose where I was. Um, but yeah, he does drum building courses. So for an amount, you can book in, go for a day and build a snare drum. You choose the shell. You don't bend the wood. It's already, you might cut it down to the size and do the bearing edges and then measure it and drill it and finish it and fit it out with the hardware that you want. Um, but out of it, you come home with a lovely snare drum. I've got a beautiful 13 by 5.75. You can guess why I chose that color, that size. Um, and Scandinavian birch on the outside. I wonder why I did that. So yeah, it's got a Dunnet R4 on it. It's lovely, beautiful drum.
Nice.
But the whole it's so exciting about this. What you're saying about this meeting people and creating things. I mean, we've met a lot of people recently, and through the podcast, I've met people, and it just I don't know whether I'm a bit lonely and I like to make new friends, but it is nice to be part of a community. And there is something special. We've said this many times before. The drumming community just seems to be a really safe place and a really kind place. I think drummers generally are really kind towards each other. And it's funny, we want to hang out with other people that are effectively going to take the gig from us because there's only one drummer on the stage. And but we'd rather hang out with them than the band. You know, it's like, and when we go to the UK drum show, it's like everyone just, it's like a group hug. It's a massive.
Well, the drum shows are, I mean, this is a story I've told 1,000 times, but it's so real. There was a time when I would go to the Chicago vintage drum show, which was the biggest one in the world for a long time. I don't know if it still is, but I've been going there since I was in my early 20s. And there was one year I went, and of course, I'm filling up my car with drums to bring home, and I ran out of cash, so I had to go to the ATM, which was at the time the drum show that was in a two-part exposition hall. One side was the drum show, the other side was a vintage guitar show. So the ATM was on the guitar show side. So I go over there, and I'm leaving the drum show side where everybody's laughing. You're hearing a bunch of people playing drums. They're having a great time. People are conversing. It is a ruckus. It's a party. It was amazing. And as I walk into the guitar side, everybody's got their heads down looking at the floor. Nobody's really talking. There's no noise. No one's playing guitar. It is the most miserable thing I've ever seen in my life. And I got the money out of the ATM and I got the heck out of there. So, there's something about the camaraderie of our community that is unmatched, I think, by other instrumentalists. And, this is just to kind of touch on content again. I think that's why it's so important to do this, to do the Drum Shed pod, to do these other podcasts that involve members from all parts of the community, all walks of life, and that are doing all sorts of things with our instrument. And when you're making content, um, I think as non-professionals, non-full-timers who want to have a goal of either, leaving a mark on the industry, leaving something behind that's, pertinent to our industry, building a community within the industry itself, within the community itself. Um, I just was talking to somebody the other day where I told them, think about famous drummers. If you're Steve Gadd, if you're Simon Phillips, any of these legacy guys, or even some of the younger folks, Benny Greb, Zach Grooves, the mainstream drum publications and channels where we would learn about drum things are already talking about these folks and telling their stories so that everyone can learn about that. So the only person who's going to tell your story, my story, it's us. So that's another reason why I made the decision to make a bunch of YouTube videos a few years ago was that's my opportunity to educate based on, you know, 2 decades of learning about vintage drums, learning about drum construction, what characteristics or what qualities will create certain sound characteristics in a drum. So I'm sharing knowledge, I'm showing the world what I know, I'm telling my stories along the way so that people can better get to know me, so that hopefully the people that are watching, just like that doctor I met in Nantes, are the types of people I would want to connect with. He's the kind of guy I want to go and have a coffee with and just chat about life. The same way the guy 10 minutes away, we'll go and sit down for a couple hours in his backyard and, you know, just talk life. That's what we do. We talk through problems. We talk through what we're going on. I think that's the most important part of being a drummer and trying to be involved in the community is not talking about drums. That's the thread that holds us all together and that helps us meet one another. But the most important part is sitting down and talking about life, helping to support one another through these non-drumming things as much as we support each other through the drumming things too. It's probably why we're such a strong community, is I think a lot of people think like that too, just like us,
Yeah.
where it has to extend to what am I doing as a person? What am I doing as a father or as a husband, a partner, whatever? And how do I navigate life generally and having that support? So I don't know. It's my
Yeah.
2 cents, I guess.
No, no, I get it, and I agree. I think again for the hobbyist or for the non-professional or the semi-professional, whatever, the drumming or music could be an escape or to something they need for their mental health and for just to cheer themselves up. I mean, I was talking before the show, before we hit record, I do it to cheer myself up. Not that I'm miserable, although ask my wife, she might say something different. But uh, I've genuinely, doing a day job that isn't that fun, and this does give me something to look forward to. As my working in the drum department on a Saturday, I look forward to going because it does make it gets me. I get to speak to people that are similar to me. Now, a lot of the customers that I get are my age or similar or older, and the story often is I've started when I was a kid. I didn't kids happened and I had to get a job, and now they've moved out and I want to buy myself a little TD-17, or I want to get myself a electric kit because I can't really make the noise or whatever it is. But and I'm talking almost to myself. These people are very
Mm.
similar, and I can relate to them. And I kind of often make well, not friends as such, but I certainly connect with the customers, and I really enjoy that chat. And often it results in a sale. I am there to sell drums, but I don't benefit personally by selling. It's not a commission based job, and the job is to do a good service for customers and to sell and advise and give. And I love it when people come in and say, right, I've got this cowbell and I need to mount it off this stand, but I've only got this and I can't. And I'm like, right, let's think about this. We need a little L rod. And oh, if we put that through that Mapex, do you know what I mean? And I love that kind of working out the problem. Right, I need to get my splash in the middle of the bass drum, but there's no, and it's like, okay, you need a long arm, or how about an X hat thing, and I love that. I love that sort of problem solving of things like that. And I think that the community, we talk and they love it. Like, when people talk back to them and they know what they're talking and they can see you're obsessed with it and you're possessed or whatever, you're totally focused on drumming, that they think, oh, do you know what? I'm not weird. This guy's worse than me. Because I am a bit of a geek. And most of the people I work with are younger, but when the old boys come in and say, right, I've got a pre-international Olympic kit. I need to have a 12-inch head and a 16-inch for the floor tom. And the kids are like, I say kids, I shouldn't say that, but they're 20 years. And it's like, what's a pre? Oh, you want Matt
Yeah,
of it. And I'm like, right, okay, so you can get Premier, you can get Remo still. Might be hard to get, but we can order them. You can get the coated pinstripe. You could get the clear pinstripe. You can get Ambassador in pre-international 12 and 16. And, they're harder to get, but and like some shops might have them in stock if they specialize in vintage drums. Maybe your friend Mark um,
sure.
at Rusty Drums may have those, and other vintage
Yep.
specialists might have them in stock. And I've bought plenty because I've got far too many pre-international drums in my house, which is a real pain in the ass. But yeah, in fact, I didn't ask you, which is what I always do, and I wrote it down. I didn't ask you to people listening because we had a chat before, so we kind of went straight in. I didn't really ask you when you started and what your first sort of kit was. I'm guessing it's a CB wine red.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was, it's no, so I started playing piano when I was 8, bass guitar when I was 12 to start playing in a band. Electric guitar, just normal guitar at 13. And it wasn't until 15 where I was trying to play bass in a band and the guys couldn't find a drummer and they said, Tim, it's easy to find a bassist. You got to figure out this drums thing. So that's when I went to school the next day. This kid, Tony Ambrosini, very kindly, Tony sold me a, CB drum set for $10. And I put that thing together, got some cymbals and cheap, cheap, cheap cymbals, heisty
No one.
200s or so, whatever. They were just, it was like cheap brass, sounded like garbage. Uh, and I started playing in this little, hardcore band, put together more and more gear to make that work. And That was it, man. It was off to the races, and now I'm 35, so I've been playing 20 years. Uh,
Sorry, did you say you're 35?
35, yeah.
It's really spooky because I was 35 when I was your age.
But it's
Sorry, that's
you
it's
said
a pantomime joke.
well, we've been back into drumming the same amount of time, 20 years about. You said you really got serious again about 20 years ago, did you say?
Yeah, yeah. When my son, just before my son was born. Yeah,
And that was such a magical time. I know one thing we kind of touched on before we started recording was how difficult it is today that we see music shop and drum shop culture going away.
yeah, yeah,
And I think both of us as an American and a UK countryman, both of us have a strong, well, as a Wisconsin guy, we have the most pubs per capita in the US, which we're very proud of. And you guys obviously in the UK have a huge pub culture. And I think it's different, between the US and the UK, but essentially it's the same in Wisconsin and the UK, and that pub culture is essentially your way to have community. You go in there, everybody's got the same seat every night. You're having conversations with the same folks every night. They become your friends, your acquaintances, people who are there to, again, help and support you. And for me, where I grew up, that music shop culture was very important still 20 years ago when I got into it, as I'm sure it was for you, whether the big or the small shops. And what's so difficult now is it feels like that part of our community is going away. We have a 100-year-old instrument. Slowly, there's going to be less people that can play it, they don't have the space to play something very loud in, don't have the money to put down on this sort of a, investment like an instrument like this. Whatever the reason is, and online shopping, obviously, there's going to be less and less shops. I was recently talking to someone, who's part of a music, distribution firm, and that, the outlook is very grim for brick and mortars.
yeah,
The same way that, we see pubs in the UK continuing to, shut down, month after month. I think the same issue you're having with pubs is the same issue we're having across the world with music shops, brick and mortar. And so something I always try to push with people who want to be involved in the drum community online, whatever that looks like, is remember that whatever you're doing, whoever you're interacting with online is still a real person. And the aim of the relationships that you're building shouldn't be that you're just talking back and forth online. You know, how do you grow those relationships with people who you connect with, you feel a connection with, whether they're, 10 miles away or, 10,000 miles away. And, I'll say, um, certainly I've had plenty of incredible relationships with friends between Milwaukee and Chicago, the big cities that I lived between where I grew up. And because of the internet, I built relationships with plenty of guys in the UK.
mm,
Joe Cox of Joe Cox Drums in Halifax, Mark Jeffs from Rusty Drums in Bedfordshire,
yeah,
in Barton Leclay, and plenty of players as well. But the point of all of these relationships was, again, how do we go from online to having real friendships? Joe Cox is a great example. When he would tour through with different bands he was being a drum tech for, uh, if he had a day off while he was in Chicago, which seemed to be the case many times, I'd go and pick him up. He was teching with Freddie Sheed for a while. Um, and I picked those guys up in Chicago from their hotel, and we drove an hour and a half, 2 hours west to go see another drum collector, drummer buddy of mine who's best friends with Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick out in Rockford, because I wanted them to meet this guy, Randy Rainwater, and to see the most amazing drum collection you'll ever see in your life. Um, and drum parts collection. It's just like the kind of nerdy stuff that we love.
Mm.
We all connect with, we have fun, and when we see these things, but it was turning those online relationships into real friendships, and it's supporting those people who are with you. Mark Jeffs is a great example. That started as a business relationship. I would sell, I used to buy and sell a lot of drums, and I would, essentially wholesale him, whatever, 8 snares at a time, three, four, five drum sets at a time. And, um, that grew into a friendship. And, I consider him a really great friend today.
Yeah.
He's someone who, uh, he's got two wonderful boys, and they look forward to seeing me and my wife when we come and visit. And we love being there to hang out with his kids and give him and his wife a break from two rambunctious little boys who all they want to do is play Wii Sports and scream and have pillow fights. But on the other hand, he was the guy who helped me get all my stuff, all my drums from Chicago to, another continent. Uh, we do our best to support each other, whatever that looks like. And it all started because of online little relationships through Instagram. But look at what these online relationships have blossomed into. It's real friendships. And those are the things that we used to be able to get through drum shops, and music shops in general. And as that's going away, I would really encourage people to continue to try to grow their relationships off of Instagram, from Instagram, off of Instagram, and to turn these into really real relationships.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things on the Mike's Lessons group is he has a family Facebook page group, and that's going to change soon. It's going to be internal into his site and come away from there, but at the moment it's still there. And you put up, oh, I've just bought this new gear. So you celebrate that. People are all very supportive. No one misbehaves, otherwise they're out. They're not gonna. Um, Everyone says, wow, that's a great. If you put up a video of something that you've done, there's this sessions thing where Mike gives us a session we have to work on, and until he signs it off, we don't move to the next one. That's pretty good feedback. So you get to work on a song, he gives you all the education, and then move on. But um, the fact that we've made some real friendships out of that, and people, I had somebody here not long ago, called Aria, who's just got back from one of his camps. Uh, she literally lives 20 minutes away. She's the closest person, so she's been here. We've met her a couple of times at the UK drum show. We went to a Richard Spavin gig the other night, and she went to the Benny Greb clinic at Southampton. I gave her a lift back because it was quite difficult to get back from there late at night. And my friend Reza, and Mel, I've made friends. That these are people that I've met through that site. I've gone to see him playing gigs in West London a number of times, hung out. Him and his Mel and my wife have had a few wines together and danced on the dance floor. It was nice to watch her actually having um, some fun dancing with a new mate. That has all come out of into real um, friendships, and that even led to, as I was saying to you before, that even led to my friend Reza saying to me, come to this jam and play a left-handed drum kit. And I played last week for the first time in 25 years, and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for those friendships and that have come from online, like you say, but out into the real world. um
Yeah.
I mean, I drove to Germany on holiday last year, and kind of said, well, let's go here. And oh, look, it's not far from Meinl, and I'd already contacted Reinhold Meinl, and that wouldn't happen without this wonderful connection of Instagram and the internet. And I totally get what you're saying about YouTube being long term, being what did you call it?
Long form. Yeah, long form content.
Sorry, I'm not down with the kids on the terminology. It makes perfect sense because you do get to know a bit more of them because you've got that time. So like my review videos of me looking at the Sona Benny Greb kit that I've got, funny enough, and there's me talking rubbish or talking about a product or promoting it. So it's a longer video. It's 10, 15 minutes or whatever it might be. So I get that. I think it's really good. Out of this would be really good point to make that Instagram is great, but the long form um, is something that is probably overlooked. A lot of people don't promote their YouTube channel or do as much for it. Um, I wonder if that's because of the copyright thing. If they play,
I mean, the other part too is it's a lot there's a big learning curve for optimizing that stuff, having to make thumbnails, having to write the perfect title, having to write the video description, having to do all the video editing.
yeah,
The copyright thing, I think if you're going to do drum covers, that can be a concern, but I wouldn't worry about copyright strikes. They're usually not so common now. Most of the time, all it does is instead of a copyright strike, they just divert the income that you would have made from AdSense to the artist, which fine, the whole point for me of posting a cover is to show here's how I would play this if I was going to play this song. So, or having a fun time, simply. So,
yeah, I never
uh,
expect to get any money from anything. And the money side of it is not never even a concern. It's just more
no,
about sharing my thing and making something at home and sharing it and having it there so I can go back and look at it as well, like a diary, or friends can look at
yeah,
it or whatever. So the Benny Greb stuff I do quite a lot because he has the unboxing stuff with the drumless bits, and he shows you how to play it properly, and I can't play it that way. So I just do like I kind of call it drumming for dummies, but you know, like those books. But it's kind of I will play my version to this song, and to my ability, that's as best I can do, but I can still enjoy it, and I don't have to be able to be as good as Annika. I think the YouTube thing is a great that long form idea is something I hadn't thought about. And to be fair, this community it means so much more when you do actually make real friends and you meet people. And hopefully, are you gonna get to the UK show this year, do you think? Oh, you are. You're
yeah,
coming.
for sure, 100%. So, I'll be out there with Mark Jeffs with the Rusty Drums booth. So come and stop by and say hi. But it's so funny though that the relationships you were talking about with Meinl. I am reminded of my time at NAM 2019. You might get a kick out of this. I had two interactions with people you know. So the first day I got to NAM in 2019, I'm about to leave the show. It's just people setting up their exhibits and stuff. And I see this guy and what looks like some people around him, and they zoom right by me. I couldn't tell who it was, and they stop right in their tracks. And the main guy in front turns around, and it's he gets in my face and says, "Hey man, how you doing?" It was Mike Johnston. I had never met or talked with this guy in my life, but he knew who I was, and he was
Good
friendly enough to
impression.
come and say,
That was a
"Yeah."
good impression, by the way.
And it was amazing. And the next day, again, this was an online connection that wound up being a real world friend. I was with Scott McPherson, who was the drummer for, he's been a drummer for a bunch of people, but namely Elliott Smith and then M. Ward for a long time. And he owns Tackle Instrument Company and McPherson Goods. And Tackle Instrument Company is they make a bunch of great bags. He was there with a little booth for them. And Scott was very kind. He wanted to introduce me to a lot of the people he knew. And Udo from Meinl was there. So he's introducing me to Udo and Scott says, "Oh, here's this guy's Tim. He's a young drummer, and he's doing his thing online." And Udo looks at me and he's like, "Ah, yes, you are the funny guy." That's what he said to me. You are the funny guy. Because at the time still this was 6 years ago, I was making a lot of silly videos. So I always remember that about Udo. Ah, yes, you are the funny guy.
Yeah, he's a
So
love.
funny.
He's a love. He's so they're all very supportive, and they often. I mean, I do tag a lot of this. I do most every one of my videos is draped in vinyl merchandise products, and I'm usually only today I'm not wearing the vinyl t-shirt. I usually am. I'm never far away from a hat. There's one behind me. I'm I've got three hoodies. I've got seven pairs of vinyl socks. I am wearing a pair right now. Yeah, I genuinely am obsessed with it. But whenever I post, often Udo and uh, others from the company sort of like it, which is nice. It's very encouraging to think. I said, "Oh, I'm coming to the." They hinted the other day online, save the date, 11th of July, 2026, and because I know that's a significant year for them, like there's a big anniversary. I um I thought, well, that is definitely the drum show. So I just rung up the hotel in Guttenstetten and said, "Hi, it's Matt. Oh yeah, yeah, the same guy. Yeah, last year. That's the guy. Yeah. Could you, or last time? Could you? I think it's the Minor Festival. Oh, that we didn't know that. You know more than us. Well, it's just literally happened a minute ago on Facebook, so I'm gonna reserve it just in case. And like, because that's the hotel that they put all the artists in. And that's where I was last time. And it was just so cool, like coming down to breakfast, and you've got Benny, Johnston, Zach, Jos Nickel, Annika, everyone was there. Yeah, and it's just cool. It's cool, man.
It's such that's one of the most special things I think about going to these sort of destination drum shows. One of my favorite years at the Chicago Drum Show was now at this time it was maybe an hour and a half drive away, but for whatever reason this year I said I'm going to get a hotel room for fun and stay, whatever Saturday night and a Sunday. And or maybe it was Friday and a Saturday, 2 nights, whatever it was. The first morning I get up and I go down to the little continental breakfast they serve, and there's two old British guys sitting down there. One guy's got a Ziploc bag full of Yorkshire tea. I said, these guys got to be here for the drum show. I don't know what else they'd be here for. And I asked if I could sit with them. And as drummers are, they were very cordial and let me sit with them. And man, one of these dudes. His name was Pete. I got to look his name up. That's this Pete guy. He's from
Hater,
Wales.
Pete Hater. I don't know if he's from Wales.
Let me see, Pete. So Pete, is it Pete Haggard? I thought it was a.
Was he? Is he a drum set?
No, I know Pete Haggart from I met him from I think he's in Ireland, maybe, or maybe he is in an Irish guy who lives in England, something like that. But there's another Pete, and I met this guy, and it turned out that he was a session drummer in the '60s, and he was very very kind to tell me a bunch of stories from his past. And one of the coolest stories he told me is this guy. He was playing Pete James or Peter James, and so Pete was a session guy in the '60s, and he went to do it was his first recording session he was ever going to do at Abbey Road. And so he goes in and they go in the big like A room, and they have this huge orchestra pit set up, and on a big stand there was a beautiful Ludwig drum set. And the guy who's walking him from that room to a much smaller studio said to Pete, said, don't touch anything. Don't touch nothing in here. And so he's all right, cool. And they go away. Turns out they were recording the theme song to one of the first James Bond movies in that big studio. And Pete wound up buying that drum set that he saw that day, and he still owns that drum set today.
Oh,
It was used to record some famous theme songs. Um, I wish I could pull it up real quick, but it's just
time is our forever.
incredible stuff. Yeah, well, there was a TV show from England that it was used to record. Um, is this it? No, it doesn't matter. But it was man, it was just so cool to meet this guy and to hear these stories. The other guy was a drum tech for uh the Who at one point, and for Elton John, and he had a very good relationship with Elton. But the stories that guy told, I mean, he was a roadie. And so, roadies back in the day, they were very, rough and tough dudes. You could tell this guy, man, he must have been a rough and tough dude back in the day. And one of his stories that stuck with me is he was touring with the Who, and they were doing what he kind of described as a military base tour. They'd go from whatever country had their military bases in mainland Europe, they'd go from one to the other and play these shows. And it was a really nice little circuit where they could make good money. And they were, I don't remember, in Germany or something one night. And they had just got a new crew member, a new roadie on the team. And this guy was a real Debbie Downer, just a super stinker of a guy. And the whole crew didn't like him. So they got him real liquored up. They got him so drunk that he passed out, and they put him in another, because of these bands would just, all these different bands were going traversing Europe. They put him in another band's van, and off he went with another band the next day, and they never saw the guy again. It's just, but this is what the drum community is about, and going to these drum shows. So that's another thing. Again, as we're unfortunately losing some of this community, whether it's from going online or not having the opportunity or whatever to go to a drum shop or a music shop, take advantage of these drum shows. You do not know who you're going to meet. You certainly know that you're going to see a bunch of really cool drummers doing their thing. Just put yourself out there. We're drummers. We whether we're guys like us who just do this for fun, guys who have been pros in the past, or the pros of today, we are all there to be with each other, to share laughs, share stories, and all center around this instrument we love. So whether I think UK drum shows near Liverpool, is that where it's
Liverpool,
around?
yeah, right at the dock. Yeah.
So, if you're in the UK, that's a great show. The same guys are doing, they just did a show in
Yeah.
Germany
Yeah. Yeah.
this year, and I believe they're planning on doing that year too. In the States, there are so many drum shows you can take advantage of. Chicago is a big vintage show. Nashville has one that's primarily new. One of my favorite shows out there is run by a great guy named Joe Meckler, who's super into like World War II era vintage drums, super cool guy. And he runs the Delaware Drum Show, which for buying and selling vintage drums and learning about vintage drums and meeting the old guard who have really, really just made this thing as the cool community that it is. The Delaware Drum Show, in my opinion, I think is the coolest show to attend for that kind of stuff. Um, so there's plenty of opportunities, regardless of what continent you're on. Take advantage of that. If nothing else, take advantage of that and go
We have
see
a
this.
we have a vintage drum show in the UK as well. I'm I would imagine that Mark would know all about that. I'm sure he does. But I don't know when it is. But we have one in the UK as well. Um, yeah, there it is. So yeah, that was 2024. But I haven't. I won't go through it now to see. But vintage vintagedrums.co.uk is that um site. And yeah, the UK drum show is like the main event for me. And the Europe one, I'm so gutted that I didn't go. So like I thought I need to go, and a massive fear of missing out, not being there. Everyone, lots of people were there that I know, especially the Germans I know, and the and a few UK guys went from our group, a little WhatsApp group we've got. Um, but I just couldn't justify it at the time, and it was a bit of a big year for Mrs. F this year, so I had to think about, this year we've got to go and do a holiday that she wants to. I mean, for some reason, she doesn't want to go to another drum factory. I don't get it. I, I'm confused. So far, to be fair to her, I've dragged her all the way to Sona. Uh,
Wow.
we went to see, so I for a shop friend from Andy who runs Newcastle Drum Shop. Sorry, drumshop.co.uk in Newcastle. He contacted the rep at that point, and I said, "Look, I'm going to be in Holland. It's just up the road, kind of. Can you get me into the factory?" And I had a lovely tour. Me, Archie, my son, and my wife. Um, we drove 2 hours from Holland to that part of Germany, Bad Bamberg, and had a little private walk around. So yeah, I'm kind of a
Wow.
bit obsessed. So I'm lucky in the sense that I've done the Sona factory, one of the oldest one in the land or possibly the world. I don't know. Um, and and the minor one, which obviously is a big deal. Haven't done any other factories, but yeah, she's done well actually. I've but this year she's insisting that we don't do it. So never
So where
mind.
are you going this year?
We're going to Portugal, and that's for her. That's purely for a place that she wants to go to. She wants the sun. She wants to be. But there is actually a drum shop in Lisbon that I'm going to be looking. I'm just going to like somehow. She won't listen. It's okay. I'm going to somehow go. Yeah, let's go to Lisbon. It's beautiful. Let's go there and just know exactly where that drum shop is, and just be meandering along and go. Hang on a sec. We need to pop in. It would be rude not to. Let me drop a business card in, if nothing else. We went to Cologne. We went to the Cologne Drum Center. We've the other on her 50th. We were in London and we went down Denmark Street and I popped into Roland to see them. And we were only 5 minutes. We literally, she was impressed that we weren't very long. But yeah, she does deserve a bit of a medal for that. But
Which is the drum shop you're looking at, Purple Cord
where
in Portugal? Purple Cord classic drums, maybe?
is it in Lisbon?
I don't even there's
I
this
haven't.
guy Beppy. I've sold him a drum before.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
gonna
trying to
find
figure out exactly where he's at, but
it. It will happen. I wouldn't do a whole day just to go out of my way to a drum
no,
shop
no.
on her holiday. But if we're in town, I think she would appreciate the fact that we need to sort of put our little pushpin flag in the fact that I've been to this one. I went to Daytona Drum Center
Sure, yeah.
um because my mum has a place in Florida in Kissimmee, not Kissimmee as we always say Kissimmee, but it's
I
Kissimmee.
say that too.
Do you? Oh, okay, that's cool. You're like, I feel better now. Um, but then we drove up to Daytona. We went to Daytona because my son did a NASCAR lap or a few
Oh,
laps
cool.
in the NASCAR, like being driven. And then we said, well, while we're here, we need to go to the beach and go to Daytona Drum Center and see that guy, which was lovely. Got a hat. Um, but yeah, now I feel that I don't want to take much more of your time up, and we've gone on a long time. I'm conscious of your time. I have no idea how long we've been doing this because
I'm good. What do you, it sounds like you got a question. What do we got?
well, I just wanted um to ask you about some gear stuff, really.
Sure.
So. I have heard you talk about this, so it is a bit stealing someone else's idea, but you mentioned about microphones, and I think a lot of people come to me in the shop and they ask, they want to record, and the sad thing is some of the kids that come in, they're more interested in where they can put their camera than the kit itself, or learning to play. Um, but I think I heard you talking about because I've got myself, a few 57s and some 214s, and I've got some nice microphones and D112. Is it worth spending thousands of pounds, dollars, euros on high-end mics? Do you need a 57
No.
and a D112 and 214s or whatever, or you know, where do you sit on it?
So much of it comes from the source. How do you tune your drums? How do you hit your drums? What does that sound? What is the sound that you're producing? Does that sound pleasant? Does it sound appropriate for the music that you're recording? That's the basis more than anything else.
Yeah.
And there are what we call dupes, fakes essentially of mics that are out there that you can get for a fraction of the price. After a bajillion years, Shure finally raised the prices on their SM57s and 58s to over $100 as the manufacturer's advertised pricing in the US. So that was a huge thing that those prices are going up. They're great microphones if you can afford them. I love Shure microphones. But when I worked at a music shop, there were fake Shure 57s coming in. And the only way you could tell the fakes from the real ones or the lead wires were different colors on the Chinese ones. And I have a feeling that, well, they got to cease and desist, obviously, the factory, but there's a brand Pyle, Pyle.
Yeah.
And this brand, I think they found that factory and said, we want to put our name on those. So they put their name on them. They gave them a different model name. They changed the look a little bit now in the last, I don't know, 12 months or something, it seems. But the same mic, and you can get it for $15. And matter of fact, I had a student who I have a list of stuff that I give my students, kind of a buying guide for recording equipment, and it comes at 4 pricing levels. I got no money. I got a little money. Yeah, I can spend some money, and I am a bajillionaire. And this guy bought everything on the list at the lowest tier, and I thought, by golly, I really hope that I trust my decisions and what I put down here, but we're gonna find we're truly putting it to the test. The cheapest mics, cheapest interface, uh, and we're gonna see what it sounds like. And he put one of these $15, I think it's called a Pile PD Mic 78 or something like this. And he put that on everything: kick, snare top, snare bottom, toms, overheads, room mic, all of it, these $15 mics. And funny enough, man, it was like 90% as close to some recordings that I'd make. And today, when I was recording with my buddy 10 minutes away, we were using one of those mics on snare bottom. We're using the PG series Shure mic drum kit stuff, you know, on the kit. The kick drum mic, we're using the tom mics, yeah, the cheapy overheads. We're using $150 ribbon mic, Apex ribbon mic, 210B, and we're putting all that through a Behringer XR18, not a super pricey interface. And it's under the hands of good drummers. There were three good drummers there. The guy whose studio it was, his name's Matty Belmer. He's an amazing drummer here in Nantes. The guy who's building the drums, Guillaume Martin, who is another drummer in Nantes, the guy who's also building the drums, incredible jazz drummer. And then me. And I don't think I'm that bad of a drummer
I
either.
think
So,
you pass, you pass.
thank you. So, we really made some incredible recordings with, you know, essentially budget level gear.
Mm.
So it all comes back to the source. Make good drum sounds. It doesn't mean use expensive drums, but make good drum sounds. I think the only thing you really can't fake are good sounding cymbals. So make sure you have B20 cymbals or nice Pisces. Um, and know how to coax those sounds out of your drums with your sticks.
Yeah.
And the rest is easy. And to bring it back to kind of what I'm doing now is, I'm really fortunate today to have had that session with these guys. It's continuing to build community, and it's continuing to give me an opportunity to do fun drum stuff. And I'm trying to embed myself in this community, install myself in this community here, because I fell in love with the city. Me and my wife both fell in love with the city a few years ago. And we love the people, the culture, everything that's going on here, and we really don't want to leave. So, where we're at now is 7 months in. We're still struggling to find full-time jobs, so that's kind of the whole thing now. And so, yeah, if anybody's listening who knows anyone in France who might be looking, or someone who can hire an American living in France who has working permissions in both countries, who will let me live here and work for them, or have a friend who might live in France who might be able to connect me with someone else, I'd really appreciate if anyone would reach out.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'll be at the drum show in October. And if you want to throw your coins at me to help me fund my life, I'm happy to take a coin to the noggin. If you want to throw your coins at me, I'm happy to take them.
So what are you looking for?
Sure. So I think what's so interesting is, like, everyone knows me for drums. Um, I've been fortunate to play drums on tracks for Disney and movies and TV stuff that's won Grammys. I've been fortunate to teach recording concepts to Phil Collins' son Nick, and I ask him, "Why aren't you just calling your dad?" And I've been fortunate to design drums that are now used by Paul McCartney's drummer. And I've worked with some of the biggest brands and some of the most incredible industry legends. I'm very, very fortunate to have that side of what I do, but I've always had a 9 to 5 outside of drums. So I've been in marketing and copywriting for over 10 years. I've worked in industrial B2B, industrial supplies on the B2B side for a multi-billion dollar distributor back in the States. I've worked in higher ed marketing for universities, and I've worked in MI for some of those companies doing copywriting as well and marketing, whether that's content, um, written content, video content, strategy, project coordination, that sort of thing. So I've got a pretty diverse background in and out of music. You can learn more at timbaltes.com/resume. So TIMB as in boy, ALTES.com/resume, RESUME. So if anybody is looking for a guy with a little bit of this and a little bit of that in their experience, and I bring the Midwestern work ethic, which I think the UK tends to share with us as well, as we're hardworking people, and we're just looking to build a happy little life and have a little job to support us, and we're happy to work hard there because it gives back. So that's what we're looking for. So holler if you got any ideas.
I've had a look at your website and seen some of the things that you've done, and yeah, I think you're one of the things you certainly are is very inspiring and just a a regular guy that really nice person to speak to. So it's very comfortable having this. I was a bit nervous about about this, not because of you, only because of my own insecurities, but I was a bit nervous about interviewing you because you've done a lot in this industry and you're very experienced. So it can be quite, unnerving for someone who hasn't to interview you. But you're absolutely delightful person to speak to. So, and I'm sure people that are looking to employ someone would do great to give Tim a call on 0800. No. On whatever on your website timbaltes.com. So fantastic. Now I think we may be there. Do you think we're there?
It only took an hour and 45 minutes, but I think we did pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I like I say, I this podcasting thing's a bit new, and unlike Americans, I think Americans are very natural speakers, like publicly and on YouTube and on sometimes we come across as a bit uncomfortable or awkward. I think do you have media training at school?
No, no. For me, I think it's you know, hey, thank you so much for all the kind words, and I'm really glad we had a good conversation here. But at the end of the day, I think what it comes down to with whoever you are is having respect and empathy for whoever you're talking to.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate to take a few minutes before hitting record on the podcast where I got to learn a little bit about you, and you as a drummer, as a father and a husband, a little bit about your profession, and hearing your stories and getting to know more about you. It's obviously I'm well, maybe not obviously, maybe I didn't say it outright, but it's to say when you told me about the work that you've done, the work that you do now,
Mm.
I think that your day job you're doing really worthwhile work, even if that's a difficult day job, which I'm sure it is.
Mhm.
I think that the fact that you are able to come home and are given the permission, uh, to and have the energy to put much of the energy that you have left into this drum thing. I think that's an incredible opportunity. Um, and even 20 years into this most latest drumming stint, but even many more behind that, knowing that in the 90s you were playing Glastonbury and doing some really, really, really cool stuff as a drummer. Even after all that time, your passion uh, for drums ignites mine.
Yeah.
So, it's to get back to the question, it's I don't know if it's an American thing. There are going to be jerks from every country you meet. But no, I just, I think when you sit down and you have a conversation with someone and, it's just, it's appreciating the experiences of everyone. And as an example, I sat down with a buddy of mine, recently who's come to a fork in the road of life. And he had to make a decision of if he continues to solely pursue being a drummer and a drum educator, or if he kind of chooses to get a straight job, 9 to 5, and does that. And the reason he wants to just keep pushing with solely with the drum thing is because he felt like he wasn't accomplished in what he'd done in the last 15 years of drumming. And I had to put it in perspective with him. It's like, he's gone to one of the top music schools in the world. He's traveled and spent years in other countries around the world playing drums. And he's had experiences that I dream of, that I think, man, that is so cool. And in the same way, with us getting to know each other before this, I had no clue that your day job is, you're doing what you're doing and you've done what you've done and what you're doing in your day to day. But in the same way, I hear that and I'm like, man, this is so cool. I had no idea. And it's I've been through some difficult health stuff,
Yeah.
in my life. I've had doctors that have told me I was going to die, and I said, I'm not going to die. I'm going to figure this out. And I, found a way to manage it. And now I've got another 20, 25 years I can kick it before my heart decides it's done. And, I think that changes perspective on a lot of things. And it makes you appreciate, at least it's made me appreciate a lot more every path we can take in life. And I hope that's something people can take from this too, is, uh, whether you're a hobbyist drummer, full time, or anywhere in between, whatever those experiences that you do have, you have to remember, or hopefully you can try to frame it that it's enough. You don't have to, gig, you don't have to tour 24/7 to say you're a professional musician. You don't have to work full time for a musical instrument manufacturer or a shop or whatever to say that you're a professional in the field. Whatever you're doing, if you're playing drums in your basement, every night after work, just for yourself with a pair of headphones on, playing your favorite tunes, man, that sounds like a freaking blast to me. That sounds like you're doing it right, so that's enough. You just have to remember that whatever you've done, it's enough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's some nice words and a nice way to also for our podcast. A lot of people that I've said to you before are late starters or they're older, and they sometimes you get to an age and you just feel irrelevant. And I never had a problem until 50. And then I think like I'm not taken seriously because I'm 50. And like, would I get a job working for, a music company, manufacturer, whatever? I couldn't think of any off the top of my head, obviously. Uh, but, would I get a job or would it only go to the young people? Do they think, well, what's he got to offer? Well, a lot of experience, life experience and stuff like that. I think as you get to a certain age, you do feel a bit you feel a bit irrelevant. And then I've got a 19-year-old son, and the lucky thing is he doesn't make me feel irrelevant. He actually makes me feel quite relevant. And because we both have this love of drums together, I mean, he's a right-handed. Apart from that, it's pretty perfect. Um, but we've got two kits back there. One's left and one's right, and they're both in the sea foam color at the moment. Um, but we've got that in common. His photography of music of some big some big events he's done. I forgot to mention Mark Giuliano he did at the Jazz Cafe not long ago. So he's got these kind of under his some massive names under his belt, and I'm always talking about him online. I'm trying to promote him obviously, but he he's about to start university next September on drum performance. He's just done a diploma. Now he's doing university 2 year degree in drumming. And I'm so excited about his life. And that generates me. And I'm so proud that I didn't ever push him. I was like, there's a drum kit down the bottom of the garden. He started off with a little accent Ludwig. Then
Hmm.
he went to, uh, he's obsessed with Natal. He loves Natal. He wants to be endorsed by Natal. And he's a Zildjian and Natal guy, and I'm a Meinl and Dixon, Sona, Gretsch, my own brand that I made myself. So, oh, and Old Beverly's and things like that, and Ajax. But basically, we bounce off each other. So he keeps me young and I don't feel irrelevant. And the nice thing about the shop is that a lot of the customers do like to speak to older people as well. So it's not just the younger people. So one of the messages really for this podcast and for this episode as well, as after what you just said, is that make it count and it's never too late. And you have these tests in life where things you want to do a U-turn. I'm in the same U-turn. I'm at the opposite U-turn. I'm at the point in my life where I want to quit the day job. I can't quit the day job and be a drummer because I'm not good enough to that. That's not what I would ever expect. But I want to quit that job and do something more fun. It's time for a happy job. And I
Yeah.
think I think I said this to me, like when I got to 50, I'm like, okay, I want a happy job now. Because I've been helping other people. I've been doing stuff like that in that kind of role that I talked to you about for a long time. And it's time for me to not have to deal with other people's problems and to actually enjoy the last bit. Um,
Yeah.
so I think all of this stuff we talked about, there's a place for it in the music industry or playing music, like you say, just for yourself. If you get that out of it, then great. If I
Yeah.
didn't have to pay for bills or mortgage, I could, just, I would never be bored. Like I could quit tomorrow and I'd be never bored. I'd be podcasting, I'd be writing music or videoing, editing. I love editing little videos. I'm not very good at it, but some people think I am, but it's just basic. And whatever, I'll be making something, making a drum, wrapping a drum, refurbishing a 60s British kit that was never that special at the time, but everyone loves them because they're nostalgic and but yeah, it's a very inclusive area and there's lots of roles in the drumming industry. There's playing, there's selling, there's making, fixing, teaching. There's so many, and I think that's a really nice thing about this industry. So I really appreciate you spending so long, up to 2 hours as we close, and it's an hour ahead, so it's 10:30 for you. One thing I want to say, there's a band called Mandel Bro, Mandel Bro. It's a young
Hmm.
kid. He's based in Paris. He's English, based in Paris. They're a French band. And I know it's like saying, "G'day, Mick Dundee. I'm in town. I'll see you around." When he turns into New York, but you're in France. I don't know where that is, how far that is away, but really cool little band. And his YouTube channel's great. He was really something nice to watch during lockdown as well. And I've seen them over here in the UK. Um, he recorded a whole album on 4 track Tascam 464. No, that's
Yeah.
424. We've got a 464 there. Um, and he he's just an interesting guy and he's in France. I just thought while you're there, check him out. I don't know him.
Yeah.
It's not a personal thing. It's just um you might not like the music. It's a bit odd, but I like it. So if there's any events in the UK you're coming over to, obviously the UK drum show.
I'll see you in October for sure.
You there?
100%.
My boy will be there with his camera, and I'll be there with business cards and a hoodie.
Perfect. Thanks for the few folks who stuck around for all this talk about drums and beer and France and fatherhood and all the other crap. We appreciate it. I think I can speak for both of us when we say we appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do appreciate it. And next week we'll be having Tim to talk about tie-dye.
Perfect. We'll see you then.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Good night.
Follow us on Instagram at the Drum Shed Podcast. Thanks for listening.